In the world of tech, there are always big battles, right? But right now, there's a massive showdown happening that's going to define our entire digital future. We're talking 5G, Wi-Fi 7, and Starlink, all vying for the top spot.
So, who do you think is going to win? Is it going to be the massive cellular network, the super fast indoor champ, or the new contender beaming down from space? It's the question everyone seems to be asking.
But what if I told you that's completely the wrong question to be asking? Seriously, the whole idea of a single winner is just a myth. The real story is way, way more interesting than that. Okay, let's get into it.
See, instead of a war, what we're really seeing is a new kind of race. One where these three incredible technologies aren't trying to destroy each other, but are actually carving out their own unique areas of expertise.
So let's quickly define our contenders. First, you've got 5G. That's your workhorse for being out and about, for mobility, and rock-solid reliability. Then there's Wi-Fi 7, which is just the undisputed king of insane speeds inside your house or office. And finally, Starlink, the ambitious satellite network that wants to bring internet to literally every square inch of the planet. See? 3 very different jobs. So to really get how they're all going to fit together, we've got to break down how they stack up against each other. Let's look at the hard numbers. We're talking speed, latency, and of course, how much it all costs. And right off the bat, when you look at theoretical peak speeds, the numbers are just wild. In a perfect lab, Wi-Fi 7 can hit an unbelievable 46 gigabits per second. To put that in perspective, that's nearly 5 times faster than Wi-Fi 6. It just completely leaves the others in the dust. In theory.
But of course, we don't live in a lab. Out here in the real world, the picture's a bit different. Wi-Fi 7 is still the speed king, for sure, but 5G and Starlink deliver speeds that are actually really, really good for what they do. We're talking hundreds of megabits per second, which is more than enough for pretty much anything you're doing online.
Okay, now let's talk about latency. That's the delay, or the reaction time of your connection. Wi-Fi 7 can get under 2 milliseconds, which is so fast your brain literally can't perceive a delay. Perfect for things like seamless VR. 5G is just a hair behind, making it awesome for responsive mobile gaming. And Starlink, while it has a higher latency, is still a massive leap over old satellite tech. It's more than fast enough for clear video calls from pretty much anywhere. So what's the price tag on all this magic? Well, carriers are spending close to $1 trillion globally on 5G. Starlink's constellation of satellites, that's a cool $10 billion. For us, the users, it's all over the place. From buying a Wi-Fi 7 router once to paying a monthly bill for 5G or Starlink. They're totally different models. Now, with that much money being thrown around, you can bet the marketing hype is off the charts. So let's take a minute to cut through some of that noise and see what's real and what's just a really ambitious sales pitch. Let's start with this really bold claim from a chipset maker, MediaTek. They say Wi-Fi 7 can hit and hold a latency of just 1 millisecond. I mean, if that's true, that's an absolute game changer for things like remote surgery. But here's the reality check. While 1 millisecond might happen in a sterile lab with nothing else around, enterprise analysts say that in the real world, it's going to be just under 2 milliseconds, which is still incredibly, mind-blowingly fast. But it just goes to show you the difference between a perfect benchmark and your actual messy, crowded home network. Okay, now let's tackle Starlink. There's this common idea, especially in the US, that it's just plain expensive. And yeah, when you see a price tag of $120 a month, you can kind of see why people think that. But here's the thing, that's not the whole story. Starlink's pricing is actually regional. So if you're in a country like Zimbabwe, that same service can be as low as $30 a month, which suddenly makes it cheaper than the other options available there. So that expensive label, it really depends on where you are in the world. So look, the big takeaway here is that none of these technologies is a perfect one-size-fits-all solution. They each have their own strengths, their own weaknesses, their own reality. And that brings us to the real question. What does our connected future actually look like? Let's play futurist for a minute. I want to walk you through 3 possible scenarios for what the world looks like in 2030, based on how all this shakes out. So scenario 1 is kind of the conservative, boring future. It's where high costs and regulations just slow everything down. 5G and Wi-Fi 7 basically stay locked in big, wealthy cities. Satellite internet is still a super expensive niche thing. And the gap between the connected and the unconnected, the digital divide, actually gets worse. Okay, scenario 2. This is the one most experts think is the most likely. It's a hybrid world. Think of it as a triumvirate, where each technology becomes the king of its own castle. 5G for our cities and industries, Wi-Fi 7 for indoors, and satellites for everywhere in between. They're not competing, they're cooperating. And in this future, the big winners are places like factories and hospitals, which get a huge boost in efficiency, but also people in developing countries and rural areas who finally get fast, reliable internet. The losers? Well, they're the old-school internet providers who just refuse to adapt to this new, collaborative world. And then there's the wild card. Scenario 3, the satellite-led future. This is where low Earth orbit networks like Starlink scale up so fast and get so good that they just leapfrog the guys on the ground. They could start delivering multi-gigabit speeds to every corner of the Earth, which would totally shake up who controls the flow of information. All right, so after exploring all those possible futures, what does this all mean for you and me today? Well, it really just boils down to one simple idea: using the right tool for the right job. Think of it like a toolkit. For getting the absolute fastest speeds possible in your home or your office, you're going to reach for Wi-Fi 7. When you're out on the move and you need that reliable, low-lag connection, that's 5G's job. And for connecting your cabin in the mountains or your boat out on the lake, that's a job only Starlink can do. So you see, in the end, this was never really a war. The future of being connected isn't about one technology crushing the others. It's about a smart, seamless collaboration between all of them. And that leaves us with one last really big question to think about. As all these different networks, the ones on the ground and the ones in the sky, start to merge and work together, we have to ask ourselves, who's going to be in control of a world that is always truly online?